It's a gamble every day, that's just how we live. That's just how we live. That's just how we live. Some things out of control. It is what it is. It is what it is. It is what it is. It's a gamble every day, that's just how we live. That's just how we live. That's just how we live. Some things out of control. It is what it is. It is what it is. It is what it is.
Back with another edition of the Major Music Lounge podcast is your host D Dot, and today's guest we're actually going to have he's a creative director, entrepreneur, and artist and producer by the name of the 6th Trumpet on today to talk a little bit about a project that he's been working on, and that if you stay tuned throughout the episode, also the Major Music Lounge podcast is going to be a part of. So we're going to talk about that, his background as a producer, his journey creating music, and more. And if this is your first time tuning into the Major Music Lounge, I like to talk to other music creators, whether it's producers, whether it's artists. We've also had on people that have backgrounds in music marketing. We've had music production app developers and some producers that have had placements in the film and television space. Also other, like, generally speaking, content creators. And for example, I've had on even other like podcasters that do similar podcasts, or maybe they're in a different like genre as far as like podcasting, but I feel like it's all kind of relatable because this platform caters to a wide variety of different creatives. So if that is you and you want to be on the Major Music Lounge podcast, you could actually reach out to me on any one of my platforms at d._major music. It's going to be TikTok, it's going to be Instagram, as well as Threads. And then it's a slight change if you're on X or Twitter. It's going to be d.mme. Now let's go ahead and get into the interview with the 6th Trumpet. I'd like to welcome y'all back to the Major Music Lounge podcast, joined by a good friend of mine, the 6th Trumpet. What's good, my brother?
Woo! Yo, I'm good, man. I'm chilling, man. I'm happy to be here. Obviously I've been watching your show, and we connected on social media. So I'm a fan for multiple reasons. One, because you're multi-talented. Obviously the production, the video, the tutorials, you kind of name it, everything within music, plus the releases, and you're a writer. So, that's a big draw for me. I'm drawn towards people that are motivated to do things. And it seems like you have a lot of motivation, and, just happy to be here.
Man, I appreciate that, man. And, likewise, a fan of, a lot of what you do as well. In fact, I got a chance to listen to a project that you worked on. I was just going through your page, and we're going to kind of chop it up about that. Some
Yeah.
things take 10 or some things takes X.
Oh, yeah. Some things takes time, but it's yep.
Yeah, but kind of starting off, I usually like to ask anybody that comes on a podcast, when was it that you decided you wanted to become a music creator, and how long have you been creating music?
Ooh, man, that's a long story. I'm gonna give it to you on a brief as possible. So really, as far as I can remember, my dad was a jazz pianist, and he still is to the day. That was not his profession; it was more of like a hobby of his. But when I was 6, 7, 8, even younger than that, I would hear him playing music, and it would be the piano or the organ. And so from that perspective, he was into jazz, and we got gospel music at church, and then at school you got a little bit of hip hop. So it's the fact that sound of just hearing music being played, you know what I mean, and not necessarily recorded, because he didn't record back then. That was the draw, man, just that sound. And honestly didn't really realize that sound would be something that I would try to gravitate towards.
Yeah.
Because literally, let me silence this, I apologize.
Oh, no, you good.
But literally, probably when I was about 16-ish, 17-ish, is when I really started to hear sound differently. And I tell you why, and I should say 17, 18-ish, because around that age, I got sent to California. I ended up having to live with my uncle. Got
Okay.
into some trouble, not as deep as like a Will Smith type story, but I was into a lot of stuff. But the blessing behind that is that I ended up connecting with my cousin, and he lived in Illinois, Chicago suburbs. That's where we grew up. I went to school in Chicago, went to high school in the suburbs, grade school in the suburbs. But the biggest part about coming to California was that he was from Oxnard, or he lived in Oxnard. He was from Illinois, but lived in Oxnard. So out of Oxnard back then came Luke Pack and Wild Child and Madlib and DJ Rome's and Can Kick. So these are the guys I ended up hanging out with. And honestly, like music didn't really draw me until after I met Madlib. It was like that changed everything for me because um like the sounds that he was able to sculpt from samples and just the rhythmic nature of how his production went. I was listening to that stuff. He used to pick me up and we'd be listening to tapes. Now that was obviously years ago, but you have to imagine that the impact still today is still strong on my production. And I'm not copycat. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to copycats, but just the way that his production flowed and the use of sounds that left a big impression on me. So that's where music came from back then. Prior to hip hop production and things like that, I was a street dancer. So I still get down, but that was where we got the vibe with the music. And then later, when it came to me thinking, you know what, I'm gonna make some beats. You know what I mean? Like I found the love when I came back from California. And it was after that time I spent in Oxnard with these producers and people that were sculpting music back then. So when I came back to Illinois 3 years later, the first thing I did is went to go get a keyboard. I was like, it's time. You know what I mean? There's something sparking in me now that wasn't there before. And that was the first time. So around 19, so it's been a number of years, man. It's been over 15 years. I'd like to say it's been about 20 years. But yeah, it's been a long road.
Yeah, man, I could see, all those different elements. One, just growing up, as you mentioned, with a dad that was a jazz musician and having some of those elements kind of just rub off on you growing up, because that's all you're gonna know,
Yeah.
growing up in that household. Similar, like my dad wasn't a musician, but I can remember like in the, 80s and 90s, my pops putting on these jazz records and me just kind of playing Super Nintendo and hearing this in the background, at the same
Yeah.
time. So, that's where kind of some of my inspiration came from as well. And then, Madlib, I mean, I think that's awesome. Like he's definitely been one of my favorite producers, hands down. One of the most fascinating things I found about him is a couple of years ago when he worked on that project with Freddie Gibbs, Bandana. He had actually came out and talked about he made the whole album on an iPad using Beatmaker 3. And,
Yeah.
that me being an iPad producer as well, and having a lot of like there's some other beat makers out there that don't necessarily view the iPad as a viable music production tool, and I just thought that, look, it's a major producer kind of co-signing the iPad, and I think that is really cool as well, man. And coming back to some of your work as well, you're a machine producer. With that, you make a lot of your beats on Maschine. I use Maschine as well. Is that like all that you use in your workflow, or do you have, any other tools that you use currently?
Man, that's really interesting because believe it or not, prior to having the machine, uh, I had the Maschine MK1. So this is the MK3. I had the MK1. It was my first full digital drum machine. Like I had prior to that just drum pads, just like MIDI pads, like just icon MIDI pads. And I was back when I first started. I was using actually Acid way back in the day because it, heavily bass, chop it up. I actually loved it. You know what I mean? I don't know, man. I love chopping up the drums and laying out single snares. But after a few years and all that, I transitioned to a software called Cakewalk Project 5. And Cakewalk was back when they were using, they had Sonar and all that stuff that you try to
I
do like a
remember
multi-track DAW system, you know what I mean, and production. But I was using Project 5. It was my first VST software that I used those instruments from. And I got it free. A friend of mine worked at Guitar Center back then, and they were giving away that Project 5, man. And I finally loaded it up. I hated the interface, but eventually learned that I had much more options for sound. Because back then you were buying ROMs
that.
and
Oh yeah.
keyboards that had, memory cards that
Yep.
so so having the VST instruments in that software allowed me to expand types of sounds that I was able to access. And I fell in love. So then years later, I finally transitioned and bought the MK1. I think I got it on eBay, and the freaking thing wasn't even installed. The license hadn't been moved over. So I ended up getting another one. And then finally I fell in love with it so much that it was faster for me. And that's the thing that I like about it, is I can lay my ideas out much
Yep.
faster. Like I use Logic from time to time, and I might use uh, GarageBand every so often. But when it comes down to like me trying to just put my personality in it, I have my keyboard, I have my Maschine, and the workflow it's seamless for me.
Yeah, that's very
That's it.
similar. I've been using Machine through like three generations. The MK1, MK2, I got the MK3, the mini version, but like, similarly, I know that workflow like, top to bottom, because
Mhm.
that's what I've been mainly using since like '09, really, through all the different
Yeah.
iterations of the Machine software. And I think I don't know for sure, but it kind of looks like they might be changing some things up soon, in terms of with the software. I know like Akai recently, for example, they came out or they're coming out with a new MPC studio software. So I think, Native Instruments keeping up because one of the things I think they could have a little bit better workflow, but I mean, outside of that, I like I like the workflow for the most part. I just think like sequencing
Yeah.
could probably be a little bit different. That's the only thing. And are you mostly like a sample-based producer, or you use a lot of like VSTs, kind of like you were mentioning?
Yeah, mostly VSTs. I like to sample. I just I don't really have a library, and I don't have creative records and all that stuff. So if I'm sampling it, I'm just sampling sounds off the internet, you know what I mean? Or I may have a couple of, instrumentals or acapellas stacked away that I'll sample from, or if I hear something interesting. But for the most part, man, I'm really trying to like play as much as I can. Um, through the keyboard if I can, but I also use the keyboard on the Maschine as well. But like I said, sampling is probably 10% of my production, and I would love to actually increase that to probably 35%. A
Yeah.
little bit more because I have some of the tracks. Even if I'm just layering drums, I can sample some of the drums that that you hear and that you like. I think it would be valuable for me. I just gotta kind of get myself into that mindset of doing it more.
Yeah, yeah, same. It's like I have these phases where I might, do a lot of sampling for a certain amount of time, and then all of a sudden I just go back from doing beats just off the top of the dome, from scratch. And sometimes I like
Yeah.
to just test myself that way with less, tools to see what I
Mhm.
can do more, even working like with
Yeah.
a lot of external hardware as well, because I got that Arturia Mini Lab, or excuse me, Micro Freak. I got the Mini Lab too, but yeah, the Micro Freak. And I want to get more hardware as well, but I'm kind of got some limitations as far as space, so we'll see about that. Yeah, we'll see
Hey,
about
but yeah, you said it though. You said you want to test yourself because of the with limited, or at least limit your tool set, and that's what I feel like with the Maschine and my keyboard. Is that I at one point I was trying every software.
yeah,
Let me see what I like, and that's good from an exploratory perspective. But when it came down to when I finally found what I needed or I felt like I needed, then that's when it started to stick. But yeah, man, I tried a lot of stuff. There's a lot of good softwares out there, but
Yeah.
I try not to overdo it so I can keep myself in the creative mode and not so much in the how do I technical mode.
Yeah,
No,
yeah, and that's like a lot of like especially up and coming producers. I think they lose sight of that because I remember there was one time myself as well. Like I would go on YouTube, and this was back like around 2010-ish, around that time because you had Maschine again coming up around that time. You had Akai going the software route as well. Logic was a thing, Reason still was a thing. um, you mentioned Cakewalk. There's a lot of DAWs, but even when it came to hardware, you go on YouTube and you see this producer cooking up with whatever, and you're like,
yeah,
damn, I want to get that next. And then you get it and you don't use it, or you
yeah,
don't take the time to learn how to use it. So like I say this to a lot of up and coming producers. Sometimes, learn maybe one or even two types of software that you can use in your workflow. Learn it a lot more than trying to spread yourself across. Oh, I gotta learn Logic, I gotta learn Reason, I gotta learn Cubase, I gotta learn this and that. And I
yeah.
think, outside of that as well, you're gonna spend a lot of money that you probably can put into other resources, or could be even other add-ons for that particular application as well. So you got anything you want
Mhm.
to add to that?
No, no, I agree. I agree that you really can use anything, to make music. And that's, I remember at one point I was using my phone and there was a beat production software on the phone. But look, man, even GarageBand on the iPhone is actually really
Yeah.
dope.
Yeah.
You know, it really is. And I've used that and sent people beats off of that. But like I said, you brought up Madlib and the whole iPad back then, or Beatmaker and all that. And yeah, man, I agree, man.
Man,
Man, you
even
can cook up with anything, really, and
even
just
going
create.
back to like GarageBand, T-Pain, damn, I can't remember the song, but one of T-Pain's songs he made on GarageBand. And that kind of shows you, but I agree with you wholeheartedly. Like if you use GarageBand, it's kind of like in fact a stepping stone to like Logic, because a lot
Yep,
of
it
the
is.
interface is the same. uh the sounds, just how you record, everything is pretty similar.
Yep.
Logic has a lot more to it, but if you learn GarageBand, it kind of, allows you to move on to Logic a little bit better than you would maybe any other application. So, yeah, man, I definitely co-sign that. Question, talking
Mhm.
about the album, Some Things Take Time. And I got a chance to listen to that. And was that a collaboration album?
Yeah, it was, man. Actually, Kev, who is the MC on the actual project, basically put the whole thing together. Like, I didn't have to do anything except he wanted to use, yeah, he recorded everything and he released it, and that was probably the fastest project really I was ever part of. Beats were already made, sitting on SoundCloud, and he pulled them down, got them remixed a little bit, sent them off for mastering, recorded, artwork was done, got pressed on albums, and then we're done. But Kev is somebody that I had met years ago in Chicago. And back then, I met him through another friend of mine who actually was my best friend. And Kev was a DJ back then. That's all we knew Kev as, the DJ, radio host, MC, chef, and all kinds of stuff. But he is like a beast when it comes to the whole production side of things as an artist. And I say that because I feel like he's putting out a new album every couple of weeks. And I know he writes like crazy, but I'm literally full albums. I mean, at least every couple of weeks, he has this plan of releasing this content. And this is stuff that he's written years. But I was appreciative to be on the project. But I really didn't have a whole lot to do with it other than the production of the music, obviously. which I think is, obviously it's important, but he handled most of the content, and his lyrical content is really dope too.
Yeah, man,
Yeah.
that was pretty dope. I like that Arms Remedies. That was pretty dope on that album
Thank
as
you.
well. And it kind of, reminiscent of the sound that you talked about earlier, that almost jazz influence on a lot of the tracks
Hmm.
I felt on that particular album. I'm gonna go back and check because I noticed you had some other projects on there as well. Now, do
Yeah.
you do any artistry yourself?
Give me something more specific, like from
Like
a
you're a rapper
music,
or a
from a,
singer?
yeah. So at one point in time, I was in a rap group. So I wrote a lot, but at that time, we were more of a spiritual hip hop group, and we were called Rumors of War. And so our style was more a resemblance of, Wu-Tang, Sons of Man, Killer Priest type stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so I haven't been on the mic in years, man. I'll be honest. I've been thinking about it from a perspective of I still have a lot of content or like a lot of stuff that I've written that was written, never recorded, and I feel like I should let it out at some point, even if it's just for personal reasons, you know what I mean? Just let it out there, man. I would love to jump on the mic. I really don't want to do my own production though. That's probably the only
Yeah.
thing. So I feel like I'm too close to my own music to really be able to, I don't know, do something different
I
that
could
can help me grow. And I think to grow, I would need to work with somebody else as a producer, and then I could, step in.
Yeah, I could feel that sometimes I step out of the box myself. And in fact, my last project, my current project at a different speed too, I've worked with, ironically, a producer from Chicago by the name of Rook One. But
Yeah,
I've also, worked with some other producers on other albums as well. And I don't know, sometimes it just brings out a different side of creativity from rapping over somebody else's stuff. There's still like, I guess I'm about 75 me in terms of production, and then probably the other
yeah,
25 with somebody else. Because I try to shake it up every album, at least having one or two songs produced by somebody else that's kind
yeah.
of sounding a little bit different from what I do. I kind of started that, in fact, a couple of years ago and just stuck with it. But yeah, man. Now, just we've been kind of talking also for quite some time, and there's a little announcement of some sort, that
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah, that we wanted to bring out today on a podcast. So
yeah.
I'm gonna let you take the floor.
Yeah, so really, what the announcement is that decided that I wanted to partner up with D Dot. We're going to launch a new website, and this site is called knowmethroughmymusic.com. So really, what happened is we had this apparel. I had this apparel slogan, and it's "Know Me Through My Music." That particular piece of apparel, even though I have others that are music oriented, seemed to get a lot of attention. So I felt like people were saying that it spoke to them. It doesn't mean that you have to be an artist or producer or anything. It's just really the fact that everybody has their song. Everybody has their style, their genre of sound and things that they love to vibe out to. So this is kind of a effort to speak to artists that really want their music to be almost their voice, and the tagline is music is my language because I feel like it can speak to anybody. Definitely speaks to producers, definitely speaks to any singers or rappers or, any music artists in general, but it also speaks to communities and people around the world that are just fans of music. So with the website, we're going to be providing content. D Dot has a YouTube channel that we're on right now. So this content will be flowing through that site, as well as another friend of ours named Keith Plizzark. He's a music industry professional. We'll have some music interviews as well as music industry tips and things like that flowing through the site. We'll have blog content as well that'll be music oriented. So whether or not it's tips on how to produce, tips on how to promote, tips on how to market, it'll be a resource site for really indie artists and really anybody that can get down with the concept that know me through my music and want to change the perspective of how music is used as a language tool. So I'm excited to, get this done.
Yeah, yeah. I want to say first and foremost, thank you for reaching out to me.
Oh, you're
To be
welcome.
a part of this. Oh, no problem at all, man. And I'm very excited. I got a chance to, check out the site a couple of days ago when you had sent the link to me, and very impressive layout. I look forward to what this platform, can grow into, being
Yeah.
bigger, everybody pushing in one direction, and I really can see some big things coming from this platform.
Yeah, and that's the whole point of it is that we get to a collective effort. And so the site, and well, I don't know who knows this and who doesn't know this, but that site initially started at SoundCloudMusicReviews.com, and that was like, 8 years ago. But that particular site was very niche in its content, meaning we only did music reviews and interviews for artists or producers that were actually using SoundCloud. You literally had to have a SoundCloud account. So it kept it really niche. So with that being said, we ended up getting submissions from all over the world. I mean, Poland, Japan, China, India, Norway, Sweden, you name it, South America, Brazil, South Africa. And it started to open up my eyes and realize that there's people everywhere that really just want an opinion on their music. And it's not even like they're not even trying to be like this great superstar or like this rapper that's pulling in a million sales. They just want to hear honest, positive feedback, or I would say honest, constructive feedback on their music. And that was what the draw was, is we were giving people authentic reviews. And we weren't like music professionals. Yeah, we did music production, you could say we're producers, we were artists as well in a sense, but we weren't like, I'm not a sound engineer, you know what I mean? You can't take me into your studio and be like, fix this, because I'll be like, I don't know. My own sound, I would know it, but I'm not a sound engineer. But it didn't matter. Like people just were gravitating toward the fact that we gave realistic reviews. We gave things on things that we heard that could help them on their next track. And that was it, man. So this particular platform really stems from that platform. So all of the social media accounts, the contacts and all that shift over to Know Me Through My Music, which gives us our own originality. It takes us away from the SoundCloud name, because it wasn't like we were endorsed anyway. And it gives us a platform that we can basically, grow ourselves as well as be able to control that data. And that's the other thing, is controlling our user data. The bigger companies will do it. Facebook does it, Instagram does it, TikTok does it. They keep people on those platforms, but with this particular platform, we want to be able to communicate with our followers and our readers outside of the social media aspect. Yes, we use social media aspect for promotion and marketing, but we want to communicate with them on a different level. And that's outside of those platforms in a space that we can control and be able to scope messages the way we feel like we should scope.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely correct. Like especially on the talking about like international artists, you'd be really surprised like how small of a world that it is. I've had a lot of artists, in fact, from like recently I had Norway, I've had artists from Australia, there's artists from like London, and producers that have been on the Major Music Lounge podcast. So like, talking about the reviews that are done on the site, and then along with this, I think has the potential to reach a wider audience
Mm-hmm.
all together. So, that's something else I look forward to, especially creating opportunities for artists, because one of the things that I've repeatedly talked about here on this podcast is as an independent artist, there aren't really many platforms dedicated solely to music in 2024, and where artists, independent artists that is, can go on and do an interview as well as get a review about their music, and potentially, in that community you may meet some other people that you can collaborate with, or some other opportunities may come from as well.
Yeah, yeah, agreed. Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that view, and also the collaborative opportunities. Because I've been, years ago, I wanted to basically set up collaborations across seas. you know, and I even have a name for the whole concept, but it's that same view of doing interviews, doing music reviews for people in other countries and all that. I mean, let's make that music happen. We got so many collaboration tools that we can utilize to, you know, co-join virtual studios and do real-time production. And that's what I really want to grow into as well, is being, you know, not only the review and content and all that, but man, really like pushing out projects that are seen, you know, in places that people would never really normally have an opportunity to collaborate with someone. But we could be that bridge in order to have that be reality.
Yeah, yeah. Know me through my music.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for the website launch and more information to come. And now yourself, like, do you have any other projects set for 2024? Or, you know, we almost at 2025,
Yeah.
3 months away, or almost
Yeah.
3 months away. But you know, what's good on the projects?
Man, you know, it's really strange, man. I've been in Vegas for 4 months now, and I really have not done any production. Like, don't get me wrong, I think I produced maybe only 2 tracks since I've been out here,
Yeah,
which is odd for me because you know, at one point in time I was like a daily type guy, you know, but daily life, my, you know, keeping up with projects and all that from multimedia. My background is multimedia, so basically my day
yeah,
jobs are graphic design, website builds, video editing, all kinds of stuff like that. So when it comes to the production side of it, like I wanted to push out a couple of projects this year, and they were going to be instrumental projects. We do have a project, like I have a project I worked on with a guy a couple of years ago. He's a poet, Christopher Sims. He's out of Rockford, Illinois. We still got to push that project out, and I think that won't come out until really either the end of this year, like around Christmas time, or early in January. Um, Once that comes out, then I'll probably push out a series of probably 6 instrumental projects. That really is my goal, and it really it's just a number thing, man. 6 trumpet, let me get 6 projects. But I got enough beats to do that. I guess I'm trying to find. I'm looking for a slightly different sound now. You know, it's like you do a lot of creative things, and I just don't want it to sound exactly the same. I want it to be my style, but trying to develop that has been difficult. So the last 4 months, I've been in my studio trying to sculpt sound, like trying to figure out what it is that I'm doing differently. Every time I come back from a hiatus, my sound is different. It
yeah,
really is.
yeah.
And it's not completely off that you don't know it's me per se, but it's different. And I want to grow just like artists grow with their music and the writing and their content. So not this year, other than potentially the poet projects. And he's literally on there spitting spoken word. And it's 8 tracks. And I've put snippets out, but I'm really ready to push that out and then go back to production. Now, as far as like, am I working with any artists? Man, there's some potentials, but we really haven't pushed forward. I've had people that ask me to send them beats and things like that. And I have, but I'm still looking for a new sound. Not a totally new sound, but I'm looking to sculpt something slightly different before I push out the next project. So,
Yeah, you're gonna stay tuned for that, man. And I know what you
yeah.
mean about like when you take those hiatus sometimes and you come back to it, you want that different sound, and sometimes you get it right away, but other
Yeah.
times you gotta kind of find that direction on, you know, what you want to do differently than what you were doing before. So I can totally relate to that. Sometimes I do that. In fact, I do it almost every year. I might take a month or two off just
Yeah.
at the end of the year, and then I kind of come back at the beginning of the year with some fresh ideas. So yeah, man.
Yeah. Yeah, man. And you know what? Who knows, man? I really want to jump on a bike, but you know, this guy doing too many things.
And now
But
you're
yeah.
you're in Vegas, right?
Yes, sir.
I was just in Vegas, man, about a month ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Oh
out
man, we
there.
got you.
I went watched the Raiders. But yeah, man, I'll be out there. You know, I went to 2 games. I might be out there sometime next year again. So yeah, I'm gonna definitely
Yeah.
have to look you up, man.
Yeah, hit me up, man. I'll invite you over. You know, we'll work on a couple tracks or something.
Yeah, man. I'm definitely down, man. I was like off of like Las Vegas Boulevard,
Yeah,
not too
I'm
far.
literally about 20 minutes from there.
Okay. Yeah,
Max.
yeah, man. It's pretty dope out there, man. It's pretty dope out there. A lot to do for sure. Definitely a lot to
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
Where can our listeners and our viewers follow you at on socials?
So Instagram, just follow me at the 6th Trumpet, and that's the number 6 TH Trumpet. So the 6th Trumpet. And then the same thing on like SoundCloud. I really haven't kept up with my SoundCloud. I think there's a couple hundred tracks on there, but not the new stuff. But SoundCloud, I'm at 6th Trumpet on SoundCloud. And the same thing with Facebook. I'm at 6th Trumpet on Facebook. The best place is Instagram, though. That's probably where I'm the most active. So if you're looking to hear something, quick snippets, go to Instagram. Definitely.
Yeah, go ahead and hit the 6th Trumpet with a follow. And stay tuned for the website again, know me through my music
Yeah.
.com, and a lot of the other projects that the 6th Trumpet has coming. And you could also follow me on Instagram at d._major music. Same thing on TikTok and Threads. And if you use Twitter, X, whatever, it's going to be at d.mme. And if you made it this far, please go ahead, consider subscribing. I like to post interviews with other creators, other music creators. Sometimes we have podcasters kind of like this on a weekly basis on Fridays. So stay tuned for that, not only here, but again, all podcast streaming platforms. And it's been another episode of the Major Music Lounge podcast, D. Dot and the 6th Trumpet, and we are out.
Peace.
Exhale the smoke out the window as I ride. Take my L's like a champ if I know I tried. When I slide, my mind ventures to another place. Don't cop me out, cards in hand, I'm gonna play the ace. Not the face, pro wrestling, I'm gonna be the heel. Turn up when I need to, but I mostly chill. Fuck the skill, if you have that without the hustle. Don't drop music, but these rappers think they Simmons Russell. Flex the muscle off my venture, steady talking loud. You quit making music, really show us what you bout. In and out, and I'm not talking restaurants. Attend sport events with the homies, just a stunt. On the hunt, like a team competing for the playoffs. Somebody else working while you taking days off. Ways off, don't have the heart to